So we got a nice
7.
cityscape, right?
Yeah, dude's just chilling, playing Zeldor.
I'm really interested about how they're gonna sell the system, whether like the main controller will be bundled.
That dog is ugly as shit.
Yeah,
I just
no,
noticed that.
I'm pretty interested in that as well. So I kind of like the way this sort of controller is set up, but it looks a little small.
I agree. It is very tiny.
Like if you look at 20, I think it's like 28 seconds in, or 27 or something, you can kind of see like his hands. He's got like a little bit of like a. It looks a little uncomfortable. Honestly.
Yeah, I agree. It seems kind of cramped.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like to get to like where his hands are at, to get to the second stick would be really uncomfortable on your thumb.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be portable as well.
It is supposed to be portable. I feel like it would, like, on this little teeny tiny cube controller, it's not going to work as well as it does in mobile mode. When it's in tablet mode, I think it'd be fine. But when your hands are this close together, I think it would be a problem. Now, later on in the video, you do see they have, like, a real controller to go with it, which looks totally fine. And that's what I'm assuming most people are just going to use. Hopefully that's bundled, but I doubt it. I do like how easy it looks, like things kind of just slide on and snap off.
I just hope that that's actually how it works.
Bullshit. That's not gonna happen.
I feel like it'll be that simple.
Now, very important right here. Let us pause.
That
Ran
frame
like
rate,
garbage.
That frame rate is really bad.
Very bad.
That is like 15. Well, maybe not 15. It's like 20 frames a second for most of it.
No, that is being generous. I think that was like 15. Anywhere from 10 to 15. That was not a lot.
No, it's definitely not 10. But yeah, between 15 and 20, I'd say. That was
visibly bad.
Yeah. I wanted to blame it at first on just maybe my video wasn't like buffering properly, but no, it definitely's got a little bit of a hiccup going on.
I think everyone who's watched the video has seen that also. And even like when he had the game loaded up in the beginning, when it showed him in his house, it was running fine then, like the frame rate was totally fine. But very obviously, very low frame rate when he had it out while he's sitting on top of the bench.
He's got like his feet on the bench itself, and he's sitting on top of it. See, he's got to be cool, all right? He's got to be cool and smooth. I'm gonna chalk it up to Breath of the Wild just being like a pretty intensive game. I feel like it's probably gonna be like, this is one of those consoles that's like, you're not really gonna want to take like Breath of the Wild with you on the go. But something like, the new Mario game they showed like 4 seconds of, that would probably work mobile.
I'm very interested to see if the games will have things change in them when they switch to mobile mode. Like, things run at different resolutions. Obviously, it'll run at a different resolution, but like textures might be scaled differently. Or
that I would hope so, because if not, then it would run into some serious hardware issues. Unless, and now here's the thought. Here's the important thing. Is the console just the tablet? Is the docking port literally just a docking port?
I was going to ask the same thing.
If that's the case, then there's no reason why it should be running less efficiently on the go than it would be in your house. Unless they like scale it down so it improves battery life. That could be it actually. They might, in an effort to preserve battery life, kind of be, I guess, scaling down the game and like capping its frame rate a lot lower to make it have a little bit more of an efficient battery life, which is an okay idea, but it just doesn't seem...
It doesn't seem very efficient.
No, it doesn't. And I feel like something like this is already going to have an like battery life anyway. So it really doesn't feel like it would be saving that much, like, juice.
Yeah. That is very obviously low frame rate.
Oh yeah, it's not great.
Now what I also want to know seeing him take this to the airport, and now since this is supposed to be a handheld, when I go to the airport, first thing I always do is I bring my 3DS with me, because I love to street pass people. So I'm hoping that the Switch is going to have some kind of street pass functionality where I can, like, you know, bump into people and share puzzle pieces and play games together, because I really love that feature in Nintendo handhelds.
Yeah, that's actually... I hope to actually expand it, do a little more with it, and I feel like they could, definitely, with this sort of flex console, you know, mobile / standalone thing they've got going on. The extra power and memory would let them probably do a lot more than what they were able to do with the 3DS, which would be cool. I just hope they don't kind of do like I don't know, you know, Miitomo kind of situation where it's all very like microtransaction.
Trying to be really social also.
Yeah.
They were like trying to be too social.
Well, I kind of liked how social Miitomo was, but there was just no substance to it. I hope that they add a little more, because even like the Street Pass stuff, there just really wasn't a lot to do with it. I mean, it was kind of cool for like small distraction, but it wasn't really anything substantial. If they actually gave it a little more content, I feel like that would be nice.
That's why Miitomo didn't work out that well. But
Exactly.
also, so since we're stuck on this frame with the cartridge,
yeah, let's actually talk about the thing that's on the screen and not the mobile game from like 3 months ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So the cartridge thing is really interesting to me because it kind of confirms some suspicions that I had about what they're going to do with this console, and it's that they are essentially removing discs as a medium. Like they're gone. You aren't really going to need
no discs, just digital and cartridge.
Pretty much. And the cartridges, I feel like some people were speculating. The cartridges are going to be what you get in place of discs. I don't think so. I think this is going to be like a Vita situation a little bit, where the big games you're going to download directly to the console, and that the cartridge slot is specifically for 3DS and older games. A bit of backwards compatibility there. That's what I think that's going to be for. Because it doesn't really make sense for them to start manufacturing these bigger games on cartridges, because ultimately they can't fit enough information on there to really make that worthwhile.
Have you seen like how dense cartridge memory is now? Like flash-based cartridge memory is actually way more dense than optical memory. You can for a really cheap price, you can get like a 128 gig flash memory card for very, very cheap compared to 128 gigabytes on a disc.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I would be very surprised if they went in the direction of actually using cartridges for stuff like Breath of the Wild. It just doesn't seem like that would make sense, especially since the direction they've been going in has definitely been towards a more digital marketplace, especially with the Wii U and a lot of its downloadable games and its expansion of the Virtual Console. It just feels like they're going into that more fully digital realm, especially because that cuts them a lot of overhead. They don't have to produce as many like physical objects.
Yeah, that's true.
I just think as a trend, that's going to be what we see more of in general in consoles. And I think Nintendo is going to push that because they saw what the Vita did and saw the opportunity there that Sony kind of squandered. And I think they're going to take advantage of that idea and really push that, but on a console that's actually supported by the developer.
Yeah, let's hope so, because I kind of want Nintendo to kind of come back from the slump they've been in.
Yeah, did you see actually the released alongside this video, and I forget exactly where the image was, but it was just a sampling of different partner companies that are working with,
yeah, I did see
third-party developers, and it was just a ton of big names.
Ton of
Activision.
companies.
You had it was completely filled up,
Yeah.
and you compare that to the Wii U, partner list they debuted when that first came out. There was only maybe 10 names on that one, but this one had at least 20 to 30 names on it. People are really backing this console up, which gives me hope that it's going to do well.
I agree. I definitely agree.
I do really like the idea of being able to take a full console with me on a plane, because as someone who makes that like cross Atlantic flight multiple times a year, that shit gets so boring so fast. Oh man.
The main thing I'm excited about with the wireless controllers being able to be removed from the console is I totally missed being able to lay on my couch with my Wii, and I would be playing a game with the controller and the nunchuck, and just being able to have my hands just totally disconnected from each other. Two separate controllers just connected by a wire. And this totally extends that, because now there's no wire. I can have my hands just like splayed out across the bed and still be able to play my favorite games.
Exactly. I love that a lot. And what I was going to say actually is the reason I think this console is going to do really well, not to spoiler my opinions or anything that I'm going to say at the end, but I think this console is going to do really well. And that's because it hits on what the Wii really hit on. Like the Wii U kind of stumbled because it wasn't as user-friendly as it should have been. It was a little confusing how it worked. A lot of people thought like the tablet was the actual console, was just an upgrade to the Wii, and like the average consumer didn't really know what to do with it. But this is immediately... That was a combination of problems with naming and also marketing, I think. Oh, absolutely. They fumbled that. And they've even admitted it. They fumbled the Wii U, which good on them for doing.
Learn from your mistakes.
Exactly. Unlike Sony, who still seems to think that Vita was a good idea, even now. Which is hilarious, but...
I mean, Kevin bought a Vita. Right, Kevin?
Yeah, and it's garbage.
Literal garbage.
Listen, alright. There's 3 games for the Vita, and they're pretty good. But there's only 3 games.
That's the only one.
But yeah, I think it really hits on that sort of... it's really strange. It's a really weird pitch, that they're throwing out there, but it's the kind of like strange, like new thing that everyone can like get on board with pretty easily. Like, you look at it and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Sense. That's cool. It fills a niche that doesn't exist right now. The closest thing is the original Wii, but because it's old enough that that just doesn't work anymore. It's not going to let you play new games. Like the Wii U, a lot of those titles, people were shipping with Wii ports because no one owned Wii U's. But at this point, they're not going to do that.
The Wii U had a very good library of stuff that I feel people didn't get to play because of how unsuccessful the Wii U was. Like
exactly. Smash Brothers, Splatoon.
Splatoon, yeah.
There was the actually the new
Warriors.
Hyrule Warriors, definitely. New Super Mario Brothers. Those titles I've actually heard are really, really well done. Very well designed.
Super Mario Bros.
Yeah, the new Super Mario Brothers U.
Oh yeah. You're right.
Yeah, I heard that was actually very good.
There was the Luigi one also that I think was only on the Wii U. The new Mario Kart.
The new Luigi's Mansion, or was that handheld exclusive?
That was a handheld. Dark Moon was handheld. But I think all of like the first party titles that were on the Wii U were very good. Nintendo Land, like a lot of, I think the Wii U would have worked great as an accessory.
It really would have.
Because the games that took advantage of it were so good.
Yeah, and the problem was the Wii U, as far as anyone can tell, was essentially the same hardware. It really would have made more sense for them to extend the lifetime of the Wii by releasing the Wii U gamepad as a peripheral and maybe have some kind of firmware update. That would have worked. Yeah. But they wanted to push the console because, it makes them more money, and it was a mistake on their part. But looks like they're mostly learning from that sort of thing. Also, I'm a big fan of the fact that Nintendo realized, unlike most of these like weird tablet-esque gaming things, that people like to put them at an angle, and it included one of those little stands. Yes. That's really nice.
I'm also very excited about that. Skyrim, I'm excited about. I'm excited to see Skyrim on a Nintendo console.
I was really shocked when I saw. Oh, there's the Pro controller.
The Pro controller is pretty cool looking. I mean, it's definitely just like the Xbox style. You can see that Xbox won the controller war, basically.
Well, I mean, that was kind of a given. Xbox just had a really simple layout. They just took what was tried and true and they made it so it was really easy to use and was very obvious to pretty much anyone who picked it up exactly where your hands go and what you're supposed to be pressing.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't get that as much with other controllers. The PS3 controller was a little weird.
The PS3, I think, was a good upgrade from the DualShock 2.
Yeah.
It definitely followed the same progression.
But,
now, if you look at the controller, actually, the controller has more buttons. It looks like it has the 2 sticks, the D-pad, the 4 face buttons, and then it also has a plus and minus. I'm guessing a home button, and then there's one more. You can also see this when they have the portable controller out.
That's true. It actually, so I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the plus and minus is probably some kind of control for like maybe volume.
No, because the plus and minus was on the Wii. The Wii itself had the plus and minus. That's just a holdover from there because they didn't want to put start and select, so they moved
that's
to
true.
plus and minus.
Forgot about that. Okay.
Yeah. And they kept that for the Wii U also, and they're keeping it for the new one.
So it looks like you've got 8 face buttons, 2 controllers, or 2 joysticks, which are probably themselves inputs. You can probably press those. You got the D-pad, and at least 2 triggers, but they might have 2 triggers and 2 buttons. I can't really tell.
Well, the Wii U Pro controller. Actually, the Wii U gamepad itself had 2 sets of triggers on each side. You had ZL, you had a regular L, and then you had a ZL and a ZR. Basically, shoulder buttons and then triggers themselves.
Okay, so that's quite a lot of buttons, and
Indeed.
that's good and bad. It can get a little complicated, but it looks like the way they laid things out, it looks like very easy to use, easy to understand. Yeah, I think actually it'll be a benefit as opposed to a hindrance. I feel like there were a lot of earlier controllers that tried to put on too many buttons, like the original Xbox controller with the white and black buttons. I just thought that was really unnecessary, especially because no one ever used them.
Skyrim looks pretty good, gotta say.
It does.
It runs at a pretty good frame rate. I mean, we're not seeing it in super high resolution, but it looks quite alright.
Yeah. I like how they have like a little weird stand for it for their like Winnebago or whatever.
Yeah, that is very nice.
They'll probably include that as like a weird peripheral.
Yeah, I gotta say, that controller is tiny.
That's really small.
Yes, I agree.
The kind of cuboid like transformer controller they had before, okay, that was a little cramped. This is tiny. And like I thought when you had to use the Wii, like the Wiimote sideways was uncomfortable. This looks like a nightmare.
I never thought that the sideways Wii remote was that uncomfortable. I thought it was going to be at first, but when I actually used it, it didn't seem that bad to me.
I don't know. My hands are kind of big, so I always like had a little bit of trouble with the regular Wii remote.
To be totally honest, I felt the same way about the sideways Wii controller as I do about the NES controller. Because it's square, and it's kind of laid out weird, and it's blocky, and I'm not totally a fan of it.
Exactly. The NES controller was something that always felt really weird, and it was a little pointy to hold in your hands.
It was very
I'm glad they changed that with the SNES, but as far as this one's concerned, it doesn't look like it has the same blockiness that the Wii remote had, which is good, so it's going to be a little less awkward in that sense. But in the other sense, it's so small. Like,
how many people are going to lose half of their controller
Oh God, everybody in the world, dude! Are you
Everybody.
kidding me? Are you kidding me? You're gonna like
I've already
parents will
lost
be
mine.
buying.
It's
Parents are
already
gonna be buying this for like their kids, and they're gonna be losing it on Christmas Day, the exact morning they get it. No question about it. That like I was expecting these to be a little bigger, like closer to the size of a Wiimote. And that feels like it would make a little more sense, but I guess because they wanted to make the portable screen a little smaller, I guess I can see why they did that, but
Well, now,
Even
we
so-
don't know. They might actually change it before release. There's always a chance they might make it bigger, but I'm not exactly
it's
sure.
launching in March, dude. This
That's
is
5
close
months.
enough. Yeah, but 5 months when we're talking about manufacturing, this looks pretty finalized. Like, it's kind of hard to, like, as far as I'm aware, and I'm no manufacturing specialist, but my understanding is that you need a little bit of time to make changes like that.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like this is probably what the end product's going to look like.
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways they could do it without having to change too much, but you're right, it would still be a decently big undertaking to change anything.
Yeah, they would probably have to. I mean, if they started like tonight and changing it a little bit, they might not have to delay it, but I feel like you'd be cutting it a little close. I mean, I'm assuming that this is basically manufacturing ready at this point.
Yeah.
It might just be a prototype. I don't know. We can't know that. But
Well, I'm looking
But
at the still image we're on, and imagining that this guy's hands are about the same size as mine. It actually, like, pantomiming in the air, it doesn't seem too small. Like, it looks small in his hands, but we haven't seen it in real life, or we haven't been able to touch it ourselves, so we won't know
Okay.
until we actually
okay,
touch
but
it.
I bring up a counterpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine having to turn the Mario Kart to the right and pressing B.
Yeah, you might get a little thumb bumping going on.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? I feel like you're gonna reach to press B and you're gonna catch the stick on your thumb. Like, there's a lot of
That's right, it is
situations
a
I
stick,
feel.
too. I was thinking it was a D-pad for some reason.
No, that's the stick. The other side.
The other side has a stick and a D-pad.
Yeah, and that's going to be really weird too, thinking about that. They don't show that here, but you're using, on the other thing, instead of face buttons, you're using the D-pad directions as your face buttons. And I feel like that would also be kind of awkward unless it's like not a stiff. If it's like a decent D-pad and isn't like super stiff, then I could see it working, but otherwise that would be a little awkward.
I agree.
I like the scene where they're just driving go-karts.
Just
It's
Mario
nice.
Kart and then
Yeah.
basketball.
Oh, this is my favorite part where they're just playing basketball. And like, good game. Now let's play basketball
play
again.
more basketball. Yo, dude, let's play NBA 2K17. And then you get handed a very, very tiny controller.
Oh my god.
There's only so many different combinations of buttons you can do when you have 5.
When you have 5 what?
5 like buttons. All you have is the D-pad and then the face buttons. There's only so much you can do.
That's true. That's a good point. It's still a decent amount, but yeah, I could see that being like
It's kinda
kind of a
limiting.
problem. Yeah, it's a little limiting.
Kind of limiting. And then we get the good old esports planning here.
Yeah, the esports thing. It's a little cheesy, but I actually kind of like the way they're kind of doing
Yeah.
it.
Right there on the shot of the controller, when he's holding the controller, that controller is definitely not final. That controller, it's at 248. You can see there's like
Yeah,
manufacturing
okay.
markings on it. Like, that is definitely not.
Unless
final
actually, that might be final if it's doing that like. Okay, do you remember the old like 2000s like clear plastic thing they used to do, like the
Ooh.
see-through purple Game Boy and stuff?
You are actually very right on that.
That is what that looks like to me. It looks like that clear
It
plastic,
is a
which
very
I'm actually.
subtle. It's
I'm
very
actually kind of a fan of that. I was always a big fan of that sort of clear plastic thing.
Me too.
Was not a fan of how it always seemed to get super dirty really fast, so hopefully they sort of ironed out the kinks with that. But It does
Late
seem
90s
to be
colored
that.
plastic is making a comeback, baby.
Ooh, yeah.
Now, you know what I really hope they do? When the Wii first came out, and they first announced it, they showed it off on stage in like 6 different colors. There was white, black, red, green, blue, pink, and they were all freaking gorgeous. And I knew right off the bat I wanted the green one. But then
there was no green one.
They didn't come out for like 5 years.
Listen, painting is very costly. You got to go and imagine you had to go to Home Depot and buy 400,000 cans of paint to paint all of your Wii consoles.
That wouldn't be enough. You need more paint.
Yeah, see, it's expensive.
It's expensive.
Miyamoto doesn't have that kind of money.
You're right. Miyamoto does not have the money to paint all those consoles. Reggie might.
He doesn't.
But Reggie doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, exactly, because he has to actually do it himself. He has to get a paintbrush and paint it. And if he messes up, then
start over.
Gotta start over again. Make a brand new console.
Throw it out. You've ruined it. Thanks, Reggie.
Yep.
Duh.
How come one team gets a chalkboard and the other team gets shitty paper? This is discrimination against the blue team.
The Korean import team has all the sponsors and the money. The American team, they know they're going to lose, so nobody's betting on them or anything. So Splatoon launch title, Splatoon 2 maybe launch title.
Yeah, it's
for
definitely
the
definitely Splatoon 2. Let's actually pause back on when we get a nice shot of the Splatoons. Those are definitely that would be a great title.
That would be a really crappy title. I mean, you could just call it Splatoon.
Listen,
how would you write
I'm down
that out?
for that.
SPLA-2? Or is it SPLA-2N? Splatoon.
Ooh, that would be good. That's solid. You should work for their marketing department.
I should. Splatoon.
But yeah, it's definitely new.
I have very little experience with Splatoon, so I'm not the person to ask. But to me, it looks the same.
I played a bit of it. I watched quite a lot of it. I didn't get the Wii U. I was planning on it, never ended up actually getting it, but yeah, I did play a bit of it, watch some of it, and this is definitely new cosmetics, and they changed the backpack ink battery thing. It looks a little different. There's not really any new weapons that I can see, though I'm also not familiar enough to really tell if those are new or not.
Full disclaimer, we've never played this game.
I played 20 minutes of it, but yeah. There's definitely new hairstyles. So
most experience
get ready, you're going to get some real fresh looks with these new Squid Kids.
The most experience I had with Splatoon was watching them play it during the Nintendo World Championships.
Oh yeah, that was a time.
That was great.
But yeah, it's looking graphically, the fidelity looks pretty nice when it's actually docked. I can't now see. Here's the problem that I have is I can't tell if the footage they're putting up on screen for these parts, when it's on the bigger TVs, if that's actual footage of it being on those television screens, or if it's being overlaid onto it. Yeah. Now I do video editing for a living. I can't quite tell. It's a little difficult to tell. In this shot at 316, you might say, oh, well, that top part of the television seems like it gets a little wider at the one end and the other end, and you could use that to maybe argue that point, but then it also just might be a trick of the lens of the camera that's making the perspective a little off. Now, I couldn't tell you.
I think if they were going to go so far as to overlay everything with real footage, they would have fixed the really crappy frame rate in the first 30 seconds.
That's the counterpoint. But the counterpoint is that maybe that was actual footage and the full television screen bits are doctored footage or different footage. That's also possible. I don't feel like they would do that, but it looks a little, almost just a little too crisp.
Yeah,
for being shot by a camera.
Yeah, especially from that distance, because you can see it's like over someone's shoulder, looking at the TV.
Now, mind you, that
Unless
might
they
not be that great of a
yeah.
distance. They could have used a lens that puts a really heavy depth of field on it.
That's true.
So that's definitely possible. It's just, I don't know. It's a little.
It is a very
It's hard to
good-looking
tell.
picture that
It's
you normally could
it's
not get.
almost too good looking, but their production value is high enough that it might just be that they have a high production value.
Might be a very bright TV.
It's possible.
Very
yeah,
bright.
actually, that's another thing. There's no glare on it either, which you would expect from the fact that they're in a big stadium in this scene.
For the
There's
close-up
no,
shots, it's very possible that they would have shot that at a totally different location.
Yeah, actually, that's possible.
Yeah, and where they could get it to be perfect and look this good without actually adding footage onto it.
Yeah, that's entirely possible.
But it's also just as likely that their video editors are really good at overlaying images on top of fake TVs.
Yeah, and it's not exactly a particularly hard thing to do either. So it's 100% possible they did that. But I love the giant sporting arena.
The
I wonder
colors
if that
are
was
great.
an actual. I wonder if that was an actual like event that happened.
Maybe. Who knows? March 2017. So we've got 5 months out.
Yep, we got 5 months out. I was really shocked to see that. Usually, when you get a console announcement, I mean, when you remember like the PS4, that was like what, a full, at least a year, right? Between when it was announced and when it actually
I don't think it was that long, but it was definitely a little while. Enough time for people to get like really hyped about it. Now, I was about to say the NX, but the Switch. I mean, just goes to show you like how much people have been hearing about this console, and hearing like tidbits and little leaked amounts of information about what the NX was going to be, and then to finally have it come out and have a really short release time. I don't feel like it's really short because we've had all this time leading up to it.
That's a good point. I think that was actually really smart from a marketing perspective, because you were getting hype for the console, but a lot of that hype machine was generated around speculation as to what the console would be. When like Microsoft and Sony announced their consoles, they basically painted themselves into a corner because they knew whenever the other person was going to, launch their console, they, the announcement and stuff, they had to be there immediately with that follow-up, and they had to counter every single point the other company was making. So they had to release all that information as soon as they could really do it. But Nintendo didn't have to do that. They could just kind of sit back and take their time with it. And I'm glad they did. Having this like really short turnaround time for the console after announcement is going to make people... It's not going to have that effect that I feel like the Xbox One and the PS4 had, where people were like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy this, and then like 4 or 5 months later they're like, I still want to buy it, I don't know, they're not quite as
their hype levels kind of went
it.
down.
Yeah, exactly. You want to like capitalize on it at like that peak. You want it to have that build up time, but you want to hit it like right when it gets to like the tip of that bell curve.
And they can easily just drip feed information throughout the next 5 months. Also.
Oh, and they're going to, no doubt. I'm sure they're gonna people.
Because you gotta keep that hype built.
Exactly. There's probably going to be a lot of speculation. There's going to be a lot of speculation about a lot of properties they're putting on there, because I mean, we've got Bethesda games confirmed. At the very least, Skyrim. So people are going to be asking, when's Fallout 4 coming out on it? Because that's going to be the next question. And then you got questions like, okay, so we got NBA properties on there. Are we going to see other sports games? Are we going to see other sports titles? Or are we going to see a move from the traditional sports consoles, like the Microsoft consoles, and see them start moving over to Nintendo? Because the Xbox One kind of failed a bit. Those are speculation points people are definitely going to be debating about for a while, and they have the ability to kind of, like you said, drip feed that info over time.
I'm very excited about what's going to come.
Absolutely. I was not really. Honestly, when I heard, the NX was getting announced this morning, I was like, I'll go back to bed. Like, I wasn't exactly...
Yeah, I didn't get up early to watch it. I was like, that'll be cool to wake up to in the morning.
Exactly. I don't know. It was like... There was no... If you're like a really diehard Nintendo person, I'm sure you were super into it, but like I'm not a particularly diehard Nintendo fan, so I wasn't super like extra excited for it. But I'm glad to see that my skepticism seems to be misplaced. Like, that it seems like this is going to be a really solid console, which is really nice to see, considering how badly the PS4 and Xbox One are flagging. Because they're kind of just turning... Microsoft and Sony just want to make shitty Steam machines. They want to make shitty PCs that you can't do like anything.
They wish they were us.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing is, and I saw a video the other day that like actually made this a really good point, and it's that consoles are kind of losing their advantage. And their biggest advantage is the ability to plug and play. You plug this thing in, you put a disc in, you're done, bam, I am playing a video game. Now it's more like, okay, now I have to wait 2 hours for this game to install. You know?
Well, that downhill trend has been starting since about 360. Well, or whatever the last generation was. So 360.
It was the 360. It was 360 where that started. But it's really gotten bad now, where I can't think of a single console game that does not require a download to play. I have not heard of one since the new generation.
Because of that, PC games do the same thing. There are some games that won't start until they're like totally updated, depending on your DRM.
That's true. That's true. But the thing about PC games is that's expected. That's been there since the beginning because, of course, it has. And the difference is that on PC, you get the really extreme fidelity boost. You get the addition of mods, customizable content. The content, I feel like, is a lot easier to access on PC than it is for consoles. It's just all around a much easier time on PC to actually download and install games. On consoles, it's always going to be clunkier. It's always going to be a bigger issue. There was actually, I forget who it was. I believe this was a Reddit post. Someone who worked either closely with or for Sony, who kind of outlined a lot of the problems that the PS4 has with its downloading stuff. And it's, I forget exactly what it was, but I think it was something where there was like a cap on how many packets that it was allowed to receive at any one time, so it like artificially inflated the download time when it didn't need to be bigger. And a bunch of stuff like that. And the worst thing is how a lot of consoles did that thing where, if you remember way back to that ye olden E3 where they first got announced, and both companies were promising, you'll get to play the games while they're installing.
I do remember that.
You can't do that, like, ever. You can, and sometimes it's really insulting. Like, games will be like, you can start it up and go to the start menu, but you can't play the game. Like, Gears of War 4 does that. Like, you can start it up and it's like, here's the main menu. It's on. You just can't play it. And like,
that's unfortunate.
But you can't. And the worst thing is, it doesn't say it's still downloading. Like, you can go to the front page of like your console or whatever. You can go to like the start menu, whatever, and it's like, it's fully installed and updated. But it's not. So when you go to play the game, it'll be like, pull a Mafia 3, and it'll be like installing screen for like another full day. Because it's still installing, even though it says it's all installed. Like, it's really frustrating, and I'm really, really, really hoping that Nintendo pushes against that current, and that they're going to use their understanding of the mobile market, because that's their biggest strength, and it seems like that's what they're trying to capitalize on here.
You mean handheld?
Handheld.
Okay,
handheld.
I was going to say, Nintendo does not understand the mobile market at all.
No, they really don't understand the cell phone mobile market.
Yeah.
I mean, the handheld. The handheld market is their strong suit.
Yeah, I totally
across
agree.
the board. So, assuming that they're going to go and try and really just put all their eggs in that basket, they're not going to, pull that kind of shit. At least I really hope not. I think they're going to try to keep that plug and play feeling, even if they do go more heavily download focus, like I think they're going to. I hope that they're going to stick to that plug and play feeling, because otherwise, I don't know. I don't know if consoles are going to make it another few generations if they keep going down that route.
The lines
at least
are
in their
definitely
current
blurring.
iteration.
So we'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to wait our 5 months and see what kind of information gets fed to us.
Absolutely,
More
but
leaks,
I'm
probably.
optimistic. I'm optimistic. It looks really good. I'm stoked for Breath of the Wild. That game looks fucking great.
I agree. I'm really excited to see what other first-party Nintendo stuff comes out.
Oh, absolutely. The new Mario game they showed like 5 seconds of footage of, which we didn't really touch on. That looked really good. It looked very strong graphically. It looked like a very
Looked fun.
It looked like a very fun game. It looked like it was a fun time,
definitely.
which is great, and that's what you want to have a Mario game, really.
Give me another 2D Metroid. I'm good.
Ooh, oh man, I hope we see another Metroid. Oh my god, or if we could get another Prime, like maybe not by
I would be
Retro
happy for
Studios,
Prime.
but
Another Prime would be good, but I would be a million times more excited for a good 2D, 2.5D.
okay, yeah, I'm with you there. I'm with you there, but I don't know. I'm still I'm a diehard Prime fan. Like 1 and 2 are probably my favorite Nintendo games of all time. Stacked up next to like Wind Waker, and Ocarina of Time. Like those 4 are really like the core Nintendo games I fell in love with. So seeing them kind of take like Zelda to that level that you always wanted it to go to, I hope they do the same thing with like Metroid. Get like that really cool Prime-esque experience where you have like what I would love to see is them pulling like a Breath of the Wild with Metroid, where it's maybe not like a totally open world thing, but you have like different planets you can go to. You're not stuck on just one location.
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be really
I'd be into
neat.
that.
I would love to see that.
Talking about this has made me think about Nintendo series that I like. It made me think of Star Fox, and made me think of Star Fox Zero. And then made me think, is the Switch going to have any type of motion control at all?
That's a great question. It doesn't look like it.
They didn't show anything off, but I'm wondering if they're gonna have. It doesn't seem like any of the controllers have receivers to kind of like control it. There might be maybe a gyro built into the individual pads, like the handheld parts that you can take off. There might be like a very limited accelerometer in there.
Possibly,
I don't feel like Nintendo
but I don't
feel like they would totally ditch motion control after all they've been through with it.
I don't know. It doesn't look like they. I'm kind of just skimming through it just to see if I missed anything. But even
I don't know.
like
It's kind
Breath of the Wild doesn't seem like. Now it's possible that's just overlaid footage or what have you, but it really doesn't look like they're doing anything motion control. Like I felt like they were going to definitely keep like gyro controls, like from the Wii U gamepad,
right?
And they might very well be, but yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't.
We'll just have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. I feel like they're gonna keep the gyro controls, but they might not keep motion controls in the receiver like controls.
Yeah,
which
probably.
I honestly wouldn't mind. I really. Oh, actually, I just noticed something. Scrolling back through. At 45 seconds, you get a really good look at the other half of the controller. There is not a D-pad. It is 4 directional face buttons.
Oh, you're right. So it's definitely uniform on both sides.
Yeah, actually, So
That's good.
that was the concern that I was having about the D-pads, like functionality as an individual controller thing, but that clears that up. Having the individual buttons be there definitely works better in that advantage. Also, it just works better than a D-pad, really. D-pads are kind of old hat at this point.
Depends on the style of D-pad, in my opinion.
I guess that's true, but I just haven't seen a good D-pad done in a long
honestly,
time.
It's very strange to see Nintendo ditch the D-pad since they had a patent on it. Like the traditional Nintendo D-pad, they have owned that style since the NES came out.
Yeah, that's actually true. That's funny. Yeah, it's a little weird to see that, huh? Well, I mean, everyone's got to change sometime, I guess.
Whatever, Nintendo. Do whatever you want. We don't care.
Yeah, as long as it's good. That's the one thing. They can make it as weird or as different as they want.
I think the reason
it's gotta be good.
I think the reason they did that was so that each side would be symmetrical.
Yeah, I think
when you take them apart.
Yeah, I think it's not even just some like symmetry. It's more like if they're designing it so each side can be used as an independent controller.
That's what I mean.
It makes it makes more sense to have buttons.
Identical. Yeah, exactly.
I think the Pro controllers they showed did have a D-pad. Let me try and find that again. I think that was like 2 minutes.
I think the Pro controller is laid out very, very closely to the GameCube controller. Since they have so many people who still play Smash Brothers with old GameCube controllers and things like that, they want to have the same layout.
It does have a D-pad. I'm looking at it now, 248. It has a D-pad. So it's
excellent.
The face buttons on it are also really big. I'm noticing, like they are very large buttons. A little weird, but I'm okay with that. I always felt like some controllers had buttons that were a little too small.
Yeah.
I was never a fan of the 360 controllers face buttons. They were a little uncomfortable to use for extended periods of time.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I mean, overall, this looks like a very comfortable,
very
console.
Very
it's just a
experience.
Yeah, it looks like a fun console. It looks like something that people can get behind, that they can use, that they can support. I see this being maybe not as popular as the Wii. I don't think this would be as popular as the Wii.
I don't think anything will be as popular as the Wii.
Yeah, that kind of hit on a really
unless you can make another killer app like Wii Bowling. It's not going to happen.
That's true. I think that I think this will definitely though fill a really important niche, and that is not even the console thing. It's the console games on the go market, which to this point nobody's really touched. Nobody's gone there. Nobody's really taken that leap to be like, I want to take Skyrim on the go with me. But Nintendo's taking that leap now, and that's going to be a really serious game changer. That is going to influence consoles going into the future, no question about it. People are not going to want to be limited to just their televisions when it comes to playing big budget AAA releases after this comes out. Especially if we get as much support as it seems like this console is going to get. If we've got like big name Bethesda titles dropping on this is going to be maybe not the definitive way to play, but it's certainly going to be the only way people on the go are going to be able to play it, and that's why I think it's going to sell really well.
Yeah, I agree. That'll definitely be really interesting to see how other people react to that with other systems.
Absolutely.
I'm Griffin McElroy.
All right, and I'm Griffin McElroy.
No problem. Fine. How do we sign off?
We just did.
Okay.